good.
Dude, your face has gotten so much leaner already. It's awesome.
Yeah, dude, I'm starting to notice it a lot. Or like super random at church on Sunday. I was talking to a guy, I had just met him, and like when he went to walk by me, he kind of did the like just like put his hand on my arm, to like sneak past me, and he stops and he squeezes and goes, "Dang boy, you working out?" Like had never met the dude ever, I'm like holding my Bible and a notebook or whatever, and I was just like, "Oh yeah, I have been." Thanks for noticing.
Well, actually, that's good stuff. I think that's a great way to segue into this, man. Hey, I just want to welcome you, Brian, for coming on the show here, aka Red Shields. And Brian, thanks for coming on the podcast. First of all, it's an honor having you here, man. You've been doing your thing for the last 8 weeks, and I am ready to hear all about it. So if you wouldn't mind, please, would you introduce yourself to everybody and tell them, like, who you are, what you've been up to, what's your occupation, family, all that stuff. What's going on with you, man?
Sure. So my name's Brian Shields. I'm in the Tacoma area for where I live, and I work north of here up in King County for work. I'm in government as a capital projects manager. At the house, it's just me and the two dogs. Weekends, I'm typically hanging out with my long-term girlfriend, and we're pretty excited. We're kind of starting to look at like the future and talking marriage and all that good stuff. So
Wow, that's
who knows? No timeline yet, but it feels good. Being part of Death to Dad Bods. I know I'll be ahead of the game, ready for my tux whenever that day comes. So
amen to that. Amen to that. Well, that's all right. So now you got no children yet, nothing like that.
no kids.
How old are you now, Brian?
35, 35 and a half.
35 and a half. Got to get that half in there. Now, what did you do for, where'd you go to school? Where'd you go to do any college or postgraduate?
Yeah, so high school, I went to Lakes in Lakewood. My dad was military, so we kind of grew up all over the place, but we settled down up here right before middle school. And so, lived in Lakewood, Pierce County area. And then, yeah, got done with high school, immediately started working and kind of like trying to do college, but I really liked making money. So I was, working and doing all sorts of different jobs, and then finally went and got my degree. So, yeah.
So in high school, did you play any sports in high school or grade school or?
Yeah, so I did, the football, baseball. I wrestled a little bit, but didn't take it real serious. When I graduated high school, I was 5'8" and 240 pounds of chewed bubble gum.
Oh,
Uh, I boxed, but at that height, at that weight, I was not very competitive, as you can imagine.
yeah,
And
a little soft there, huh?
yeah, and then actually as an adult, uh, training in MMA, did that for a few years, and then pretty much quit that. And the next year started riding bulls and buck. So yeah, I've
Really?
done more exciting things as an adult than I did as a kid.
That's pretty awesome. So now you mentioned your father. Now, what did your father do, if you don't mind?
So he was a maintenance warrant officer. He was in the Army. He spent 24 plus years in the Army, and then he retired from there and kept working for the government until he retired. What was that? In 2018, he finally retired, built a shop, and now he tinkers in his shop and hangs out with his.
Now was your father of any influence in the like the training aspect? I mean, did he lift weights or did he set an example like that? I mean, because I know a lot of military fathers, most of, not all, but a lot of them will end up, after the military, continuing on with their fitness.
Um, Not so much. He didn't. He did the bare minimum to pass PT, and part of that was very early in his career. He was injured, and so he was on profile. So
Okay.
he didn't have to go high speed. Where I think that he really influenced me, and what's helping with some of this meat and potato stuff that we're going to get into with some of the questions coming up is just the discipline in general. That it takes to do it, and setting your mind to something and following through. That I definitely learned. He was an example there. So while I didn't learn how to do a bench press from my father, for instance, I did learn about like discipline and holding yourself to a high standard.
Yeah, there's somewhere in there, there's got to be some core values, something that you picked up on, throughout life that's sparked this. I sent you some questions as a kind of a cheat sheet ahead of time, just so that we could get ahead of the game here. And the first one I had for you was, well, first of all, I mean, I asked you to give me like, one of your, most notable life challenges. And I know, and then you could expand on that.
Yeah. So July of 2021, so not much more than a year ago, my left leg was amputated about 7 inches below my knee.
And can you tell us how that happened and why?
Yeah. So for a calf muscle, I was running to try and stay in shape for a cop job that I was supposed to go start on the east side of the state, and tore a calf muscle, staying ready for that. And then I was wearing a brace to support the calf muscle while it healed. And I was helping my buddy do a remodel, which is real smart to do while you're in a brace for a torn calf muscle, but took a goofy step, and it caused like a shearing force, my foot against that brace, and it tore my foot open into the muscle. Fast forward a few weeks of things seeming to be healing well, working with the doctor, going for a checkup, and his jaw dropped and it turned gangrenous over the course of just a few days from the last time he had seen me. And yeah, that ended up getting into the bone. And, they tried, taking little pieces as they went. And finally they said, "Hey, man, we got to take your leg or it's going to kill you." And, at the time, 34 years old, I wasn't ready to die. So I let him cut my leg off.
Yeah, I'd say that's a fair trade.
Yeah.
Well, I'm certainly glad that you were able to make that sacrifice and stay with us. Um, you know, there's my father was born with polio. He was born in 50, and the vaccine came out in 51. So yeah, narrow margin. So yeah, I watched him and his challenges with life. He walked with two canes, and so yeah, I've been around those challenges before, and I got to say, it's amazing what the body's capable of if the mind and the spirit is willing. Like truly.
Yeah. Yeah. So I read something actually about an hour ago, scrolling through Facebook,
uh,
and a double amputee buddy of mine who lives in Utah, uh, he posted it, and it says, "Your body can withstand almost anything. It's your mind you have to convince."
yeah, it's true.
That's,
It's
yeah.
so true. It's such a mind game, especially like with bodybuilding, when you're taking yourself. And when I say that, I mean when you're taking yourself to that next level with the theory of, or the example or analogy of training with a gun to your head, so to speak. And that's that's kind of the way I trained for a lot of my career. Just to go to that next level. It's not absolutely necessary for somebody who's just trying to look better naked, but right. But I do have to ask, what was the thought or the triggering, the spark? What was the moment that you were just like, you know what, like, and I think this kind of goes out to like everybody should be listening to this portion, because I'm even curious myself as to like how and when and why do my clients decide one day, because I have I've had up to 42,000 followers in the past, prior to doing Death to Dad Bods on my Instagram, and it always boggled my mind as to what it was that I did that made people, what was the final straw before they said, all right, fine, I've watched Gabe say that enough times, he's not BSing, obviously, look at these guys that he's getting results for, I'm going to call him today. Because it's not like, I highly doubt you thought I was a fake by posting my pic, because there's a lot of people out there, I reckon probably are, but I mean, after a while, it's got to be like, what was it that was, because it's got to be your decision. Like, it's not, I firmly believe it's nothing that I convince you of. It's just maybe something that triggers a thought. I don't know.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's kind of a couple angles to come at that question. One, intrinsically, I knew something had to change. I decided when I lost my leg that, hey, there's three reactions I can have here. I can kill myself and give up, which isn't me. I can sit here and be sad and be in this situation, and mope and, you know, eat Cheetos and drink Mountain Dew, or I can do something in the best that I can and figure out what that is. At the time, I didn't know what that was. I opted for option 3 because I'm in this situation and I can either sit around and do nothing or I can do something. And so right out the gate, 3 months after I lost my leg, I got onto a prosthetic. And 13 hours later, I was at the gym doing rack pulls. You know, first time I had walked on 2 feet in 6 months because of all the surgeries leading up to the amputation, and kind of overdid it and ended up injuring my stump after not too long trying to train. And I wasn't really dialed in on nutrition. Um, and and so I failed basically. Let's say fail. And then while I was waiting for my stump, you know, what's left of my leg after the amputation, I refer to it as my stump. While I was waiting for that to heal so I could get on another prosthetic, I kind of let myself go. Like I wasn't even like trying to stretch anymore or do what I could from like my wheelchair off crutches. So I got sloppy, and I got tired of seeing that in the mirror towards the end of the summer. And I've had the opportunity, you know, you used to live up here in Tacoma, and used to come into, you know, one of the bars that I bounced at a few times. So I knew who you were. You know, I worked out at G Standard Gym for a little while. And so I was following you on social media, and yeah, man, just towards the end of the summer, I was just like watching and, you know, seeing these, you know, you'd post progress photos of other guys and tell their stories. And it's like, man, those guys are no different than me. And finally, it was just like, I had made the decision that I needed to change. I was kind of falling short with what I was trying to do. I was trying different dieting things through the summer, and just, you know, I'd be super successful for 3 weeks and then just crash off of it because I was tired, I was exhausted, I was starving, I wasn't eating food that I liked. Anyway, man, so that's why I reached out to you. And, you know, obviously, proof's in the pudding. You know what you're doing to an extent because, like, look at Gabe Moen. He's, you know, he's jacked and juicy. Yeah. And so obviously he knows the science. And then when I'm seeing like the results you're getting with other people, that tells me like, all right, this guy can do it for himself. So he knows it, and he can communicate it to others in a way that they understand. So between me deciding to do it, seeing, you know, your personal, how you are built and carry your life and your discipline, and then seeing how you've inspired other guys who, you know, yeah, maybe their leg hadn't been cut off, but, you know, they had gotten sloppy as middle age is approaching us and all that.
Yeah.
He took them to, you know, some of those guys are beasts that I've seen photos of, like in a good way. So
yeah, truly. And knowing that that most of them have wives and children, and that's pretty impressive. Like that they're balancing all of that, you know, that act, you know. I agree with you. The what was it, the changes that were made in your eating and training since signing up versus, you know, like what you were doing prior to, can you give us kind of some contrast there?
Yeah, so I mean, I'd go to the gym before and like, you know, yeah, today's gonna be a shoulder day, you know, my shoulders to have a pump when I go to work today or whatever. And so I'd go and I'd hit, you know, a couple different exercises, but I wouldn't have energy. I wouldn't really get a good pump. And I just kind of get bored. And so I don't want to say you're wasting time, because I think just stepping in the gym is good for anybody that's starting, you know, especially. But I wasn't taking it seriously. I had no direction. It was just like I was going because I knew I should be going. And I think what was worse than not really having a direction with the training was my nutrition. You know, it's like, man, I'm getting sloppy. So like, all right, well, let's throw into YouTube or Google and see like, all right, how to lose weight fast. And, you know, there's a million different recipes for this, but the outcome's all the same. Starvation, you know, when you look at these, you know, lose 20 pounds quick kind of stuff, like you're not eating good food. You're depleting your body of like, not just calories, but like good, like nutrients. You know, you're not getting all the vitamins and minerals that you need. And like, who wants to be swallowing down, you know, 37 different capsules in the morning to supplement that? Okay. You know, that's how you're supposed to get it anyways. And so, yeah, you know, I do this like, you know, low carb, high protein deal. And, I've tried keto in the past, and yeah, you know what, keto is really great if you're like super strict on it, because like who doesn't like bacon and butter all the time, right? I mean, of course, like that's delicious, but it's not sustainable. I mean, if you're in ketosis, awesome. But if you go like, if you have a bite of birthday cake, you're through. You just wasted 3 or 4 days on either side of that.
Yeah.
And so, since signing up with you, you lined me out with this diet where, like, man, the first couple of weeks, I don't think I texted you ever saying I was hungry. I was like, man, how am I going to get all this food in my gut?
Yeah.
I was full all the time. My body wasn't used to consuming that many calories.
Yeah.
And it was real food. I was cooking real. I mean, what diet puts you on like steak twice a day?
Right.
This diet. Okay. You wake up in the morning and you're eating buffalo. Like,
Yeah.
cool. Take me back to the Great Plains. Like,
Right.
all this like real good like food. So there's tons of red meat, there's rice, some veggies mixed in there. And then there's the chicken, and also, what diet do you ever see that's like good for you where you get a bagel every day? Like, I love bagels. And like that's huge. That's like one of my favorite meals is like when I get my bagel and yogurt or bagel and cottage cheese meals. So I'm eating good foods that I love. And then cool. Now when I go to the gym, I have like insane energy. Like insane energy. I feel my breakfast kick in while I'm lifting. It's like, whoa, there it was.
Yeah.
And yeah, the pumps are insane. So I don't know if there's, better than me. There's something in what I'm eating that like, wow, like I actually get a pump now,
Yeah. Yeah. Your body's running very efficient right now and utilizing everything that you're eating for its sole purpose. And, I could dive real deep into that, but, typically when you're eating food, the way that we were in the past, a lot of people are eating food that is, not really conducive for the purpose of the task, and we're looking for the ability to, volumize the cell as much as possible. And cells are made up of water, and carbs are the taxi cab and the catalyst. So you've got, carbs get stored in the muscle cells, as water. And so when you go in with your sodium and take that just before, those cells are ready to burst. They're so full. So when you go in there and start training, you get a nasty pump right away because all the carbs are available. You've been consistent. And that's another thing. Guys that have inconsistent workouts have inconsistent diets, guaranteed. You get one day you ate really good, and the next day you have a great workout and you don't know why. You're like, well, why did I have a great workout today? Or yesterday, and today sucks, It's because your diet sucked yesterday. You know what I mean? The day before you nailed it. But yeah, think about that too, is like anybody that's out there watching right now, like whatever you ate day prior and drank day prior is going to affect you, day forward. So keep that in mind too. But what was your takeaway, and what's so far, what's your favorite thing about the program itself?
My takeaway, I say what my takeaway is trust the freaking process.
Okay. At 8 weeks in, he's saying trust the process.
That process, it's these changes don't happen overnight. Although the further I get into this, the more I can actually notice day-to-day changes. So, how the timing of my food the day before affects me. I wake up and we're like, okay, I'm starting to notice that stuff, but just trust the process.
Yeah.
It takes some time to develop like this to become a true habit, and not just like a diet. This isn't a crash diet. This is a life change to do this. And so you just got to trust the process. And what was the other half of that question?
Basically, like, what was your favorite thing about it? What was your favorite thing? What has been your favorite thing about the program?
That knowing that I can. I'm learning to dig deep again. I used to be very gritty, and I had lost that over the last few years. I had a failed marriage, and I kind of lost some of that internal drive around that. And so this has really been helping me learn to dig deep and trust who I am. And that comes to, by way of just fighting cravings. Cause like sometimes, man, I'll drive by, Jack in the Box, and I'll smell that buttery Jack, and it smells really good, but I just keep the truck moving. I go right past it now. Before I'd have caved, and you know that to me, like I'm impressed with myself when I do things. Fight those kinds of cravings, and then just like, all right, hey, for me with my work schedule and what I got going on, my alarm goes off at 1:45 in the morning. That's what time I start my day, and that gives me my time to eat and get to the gym. That's just works for my schedule. Not everyone's going to have to go that early, but that's taking some discipline and that drive. Like I have to want it to get out of bed early. I'm going to bed early to compensate because sleep's important.
Right.
And then just learning to dig. When you're squeezing out a rep and you're like already like don't think you can move anymore, but you got like one or two left to hit your goal for that number and that set. You make them happen. You dig deep. Care if you're making noise, you don't care if you're making an ugly face, because I'm not there to
not there to look pretty.
Yeah, I'm not there to look pretty.
Yeah.
I'm there to. And so yeah, man, that's been my biggest takeaway is learning to dig into myself and make myself do the best that I can.
And
so
trust the process. What would you say was the biggest challenge of it all? Like what like meal prep or organizing your time, or I mean, I don't know, what was your biggest challenge throughout it thus far? Stating that we're not done yet, guys. He's still got 4 weeks for the rest of the challenge. So
honestly, just so like I'm pretty close with my dad and his wife, and my dad's wife can cook. Man, I tell you, that woman can put some kitchen that tastes so good.
Yeah.
Girlfriend can cook, and they bake too. So that's dangerous when they're good at it and they like to do it. That's how they show love. So, I had to, at the very beginning of this, I got a hold of the people in my life and said, hey, I'm doing this. I'm going to be super strict. When I come over for dinner, I'm bringing food if what you're cooking isn't, this. Yeah. And so that has been a little hard, but they were all super understanding and supportive. And so it's just kind of like sacrificing some of that, like, that's how those ladies show their love for the people in their life. And so having to kind of, dance around that without hurting feelings that like, hey, I've got this goal. This is what I am doing. And, until I get to a certain point, I'm not going to vary from this. And, they're loving and understanding. So it worked out, but it's probably been the hardest thing, to be honest.
And I got to be honest with you. I agree with you. That's been the hardest thing throughout my career, was the same thing, because everything that we do as human beings, every time we gather, it's around food, it's around drinks, it's around stuff that's feel good, with comfort foods, right? So when you think about that, and then there's always a reason to celebrate. Like there's almost always somebody's having a birthday, somebody's always a holiday around the corner. So for me, it was just easier to do the same thing, to just my mom knew after a while, she just knew her son was a bodybuilder, and she would call and say, hey, what am I cooking you? I'd try to keep it on the same menu. And then, so there were times where I did have to show up with Tupperware, and I did, and I at family functions, but people just, I had their support too, because I was crazy enough to believe in myself, when nobody else did. So, and you're doing the same thing. I'm super proud of you for doing that, man. The takeaways are awesome. I love the fact that you're doing this in the face of adversity, instead of wallowing in it and staying stuck or letting that thing kind of like hover over you and kind of cover you in darkness, because that could, man, it's done it to people before. It consumes people. So I'm glad you didn't allow a setback to hold you back. But on that note, like, why should the people that are on the fence like make the proverbial jump? How do you trash the excuses?
Man, it's you can want to change all day long. You can want something to be different, but like change is a reaction to prior action, right? So something has to get moving to make a change. And if someone's on that fence and they're like, hey, I want to get in shape, but this, but that, like, I mean, the times in the day, the question's not about like, is there time to do it? It's the question is like, is your priority to do it? Um, and yeah, I mean, you're gonna add years to your life. You're learning, you know, the cool thing about what you've got going, Gabe, is and it's how you explained it to me, and you know, as a fellow believer, you know, it kind of hit home as
Mhm.
um, you're teaching men how to fish. You're not just handing them a fish, you know. And I kind of think of that, you know, that's kind of like what Christ did in a way, you know. And I'm not by any means saying that you're Christ like. I
No,
mean, you
no,
are.
no, no,
Right.
no, no. Although we try to be as Christ-like as possible.
Yeah, exactly. What you're doing is you're offering a program that allows guys to learn how to help themselves. You're paving a road, helping them learn how to pave their own road.
Mm.
Uh, and so by joining this journey, like, hey, while you're on it, I mean, first of all, like I haven't felt this confident in like my clothes for a long time, you know, and I'm not done yet, people. Like, I can't wait to see how confident I am later because like right
Oh,
now I'm like peacocking, you know.
good.
Uh, it's good for the now, but you're learning habits, you're learning the science behind it, you're learning how your body reacts because you know, like Gabe and Brian, we react different to different things, but you're learning about your body. um, and so I mean, yeah, if someone's on the fence, I'm gonna tell them like, man, you're just bettering yourself. You're gonna make yourself better for the people around you too. You know, you're gonna look better for your girl. You know, as I joke all the time, I tell people all the time about what your wife says about the program, you know.
Yeah.
You might not be a daddy, but your girl's going to be calling you daddy when you're done with this. Like,
For sure.
girl, you're going to feel better. You're going to have more energy, so you're probably going to be doing better at work. You know, as men, you know, we're kind of charged with the task of protecting our families and protecting our loved ones. Well, hey man, if you're sloppy chewed bubble gum, like good luck. You know, like be fit, be strong, be ready for that if that happens. You know, and uh, yeah, man, I think that it's life saving in a lot of different ways. I feel woke up for the first time in a long time, you know,
That's
being on this.
awesome. You know, I think I'm gonna go off road now. We're freelancing now for the rest of our time on here. Um small like celebrating small victories, celebrating victories period, I think is an issue that I know for a fact that I have had an issue with not celebrating often enough. And I have plenty of friends that are pretty much the same way because we are um obsessed with our craft, you know, and nothing's ever good enough. And you know, you're never shredded enough, you're never you know, big enough, you're not whatever. And so, you know, one of the things that I've noticed that a lot of us men tend to do is skip over the celebration portion of like whenever we achieve something. Like, you know, give me an example of like something where you typically wouldn't have celebrated it in the past, but you felt comfortable to now, or could you encourage guys, or have you found yourself doing that? Are you a kind of guy that kind of like doesn't, I think that's more of a question for you instead of a statement. What are you a guy
Uh,
that skips over the celebration?
Milestones in the like my journey.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, you know, honestly, for me, like being able to look at yesterday and know I did it perfect or as close to perfect as I could, you know, like for me, that's a huge reward. So I kind of see that as a celebration. But you know, my girl and I a few weeks ago, I texted you, and you know, it was like a Saturday afternoon. Was like, hey man, we ended up in Leavenworth, and I sent you a picture of my food. Right, it was that you know giant bratwurst with like the beer cheese and these like crystallized onions and like a you know the beer this big, and
Yeah.
you know that's the only time during this whole thing that I've done that.
Yeah.
And we had something big that we were celebrating, and you know I made a call, and it was like, all right, that means I got to work twice as hard the next few days to make up for this. Um, but yeah, you know, I find ways to reward myself. Um, uh, you know, and some of the rewards are built in. I had to go buy some new clothes, man. So,
There we
you know,
go.
and so like right now I got some fresh threads and they're fitting good. And like, you know, like when I flex it, like, you know, things move now. It's not just
Yeah, baby.
flex. It's not doing anything. No, like, I mean, it gets hard, you know, it moves now. So there's some like things like some prizes built in there that like like you kind of, it celebrates itself in a way,
That's
to be
what I'm
honest.
talking about. Yeah, I know. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Is, you know, like anytime I'd see a new vein or a new line or a new whatever or something pop out, that was like literally my motivation to like drive harder so I could see the next line or the next striation or the next vein or the whatever. So yeah, I think a lot of the times certain well, most people don't see the change happen quick enough, right? Like that's one thing I wanted to ask you earlier was do you remember when you placed your first pictures next to your pictures that you sent me? Because that was the first, wasn't that the first time that you placed them side by side? Am I wrong?
I had
Or
done
did
it,
it did it at a month too, right?
yeah, but that was like, holy cow. And with it being right after Halloween, I have to say, here's a celebration is, my girl's like petite and brunette, and, she looks like olive oil, but way prettier than olive oil, right? From Popeye and olive oil. And, I'm blonde and like kind of, gruff, got the tattoos. And so I was like, all right, let's be Popeye and olive oil. And we had decided this a long time ago. And so, like, with the working out, I was like, oh, I got to do it. I got to rock this costume. And like in our photo that we took for Halloween, dude, my forearm was freaking jacked. And like, I was like, I think I posted and was like, when your workout program is working so good, you don't have to buy the stupid inflatable Popeye arms for your costume.
True
Like,
story.
get ready for your next costume with Gabe. I tell you what, that for me, that was like a celebration in and of itself. Uh, yeah.
That's
So
awesome, man. Yeah, I totally get it. And your picture, by the way, that was dope. Like I remember I commented on that. I was like, my
yeah.
wife and I both looked at each other like he looks like the real thing. So
Uh,
good on you, man. That's fantastic. Is there anything else that you want to share with anybody? Like, before we get off here, because I just want to say it's been a pleasure having you, man. It's been a pleasure being a part of your journey. I want to thank you personally for having me on and hiring me as your coach, because this is really like what what blows my dress up, for a lack of better terms. It really does. It makes me so happy to be able to share the joy and the celebrations with you and those mile markers that we hit together. And it just it also reassures me that I still know what I'm doing. And I still got it. There's so many people that we sign up with, and not to get on a bad note, but there's times not everybody finishes the program, and that's unfortunate, and it happens, and whatever. Priorities, but the ones that do are the ones that keep me moving forward. It's like every season I get like a couple guys that just really inspire me and make me want to go find out who those next couple guys are.
yeah.
So I just wanted to send out like a call to action to any of you other guys out there that are like Brian, that were sitting on the fence, that didn't knew you needed to do something, but you weren't really sure what to do. um you know this is the time, man. Like, just literally just pick up the phone, or just pick up your phone. It's so easy now, dude. We've got like direct message to Instagram. We can like this whenever you're thinking it, just pick up the phone. And dude, I'm not charging anybody anything to talk to you. So just tell me your story. Tell me your why you need to do it. Just get it out. I mean, sometimes people just need to get it out, and they've got enough, to get started on their own for a little bit. I give them some advice. Go pick up the vertical diet. That's the first thing I'm going to tell you. Go pick up the vertical diet. I got it right here. Boom, right there. And here, let me give you this, since we're on this topic. 85% of people on a new diet lose weight, right? 95% of them gain it back, right? Of the people who successfully keep the weight off, 98% modified their food intake and diet, 94% increased their physical activity, 78% ate breakfast every day, and
Got you.
75% weighed themselves regularly. Because that gets measured gets improved, right? So that's what we want to do, is measure every day. That's why I ask you guys to weigh in every day, so I have a constant, and you guys get a reminder that, hey, I'm on a plan for something. We're on a deadline to get somewhere, and we're not fussing about. We're making haste after this thing. So I want you guys to know that I'm always there, and the communication is very important between me and my clients. And I do like to listen. to my clients. And when they say, hey, ouch, that hurts, you know, so to speak, or I'm stuffed, or I need more food, I'm starving, whatever the case may be, my pump sucks, I didn't get a pump today. You know, we talk about all those things, but I want you all to use your phone, and you know this, you can use it like a journal. Be like, Gabe, hey man, this is how I'm feeling today, what blah, blah, you know, I ate this meal, you know, I'm clock watching at 1:30, it's only been an hour and a half since my last meal, what should I do? You know what I mean? And I'll give you immediate instruction right on the spot and get you guys taken care of. But you can attest to that, like all the communication we've had.
Oh yeah, it's daily. You know, and that's um honestly, there's been days where, you know, I didn't want to get up and get moving, and nah man, like got text Gabe, like, you know, there's a sense of accountability about working with you, because it's not just a monthly check-in or something, you know, it's a
Yeah.
daily check. You know, and there's been times where I didn't text, you know, every day, and then, you know, by the end of the day, you're like, hey man, get after it, you know, like you'll kind of step in and say something to remind me you're there, and you know, we pick back up the next morning. You know, tomorrow is, you know, I'm doing the carb cycling. You just drop my carbs some, and tomorrow's, you know, day 3, so you're going to be getting a picture and a text at, you know, 2:15 my time. So yeah, the communication is key. And you know, to anyone that is thinking about it, no, you kind of said it, there's no time like right now.